Hi, and thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about fascia and how fascia helps to transport energy through the body. You might have heard of Tom Myers. He's one of my teachers, and he wrote a book called Anatomy Trains. Today we're going to talk about a few of the fascial lines that run the length of the body. But I highly recommend, if you're interested in learning more about anatomy trains and the fascial lines, that you check out Tom Myers' book. It can be a really amazing resource. Anatomy is a combination of a structural, a kinetic, and a containment system that helps us to balance our load or the weight of the body in gravity. When we look at anatomy, we start from the physical structure, the bones, and then we look at the muscular structure or the physiology. We used to think that the muscles were separate, that we had 4 separate quadriceps, or that we had 3 separate hamstrings. But we now understand that that's not quite the case. Really, we have one muscle tissue, one muscle fiber that's broken up into different pockets of fascia. If you've ever deconstructed a tenderloin, you've recognized the silver tissue that's really hard to cut or remove away from the muscle tissue. This is fascia, and we have fascia all over our entire body. Today we're going to be talking about the superficial back line, the deep front line, and the wings of the body. Tom Myers predicted that fascia runs in lines, and that rather than having the muscles all compartmentalized into different spaces or individual muscles in the body, that the fascial lines actually help to carry the load or tension through the body. We can look at the deep front line and the superficial back line in a very simple and pragmatic way. The deep front line begins right at the heel and comes underneath the foot and up over the toes, all the way up the front of the body to the forehead. The superficial back line starts at the heel and comes up over the heel, up the back side of the body, all the way up the back and over the head to meet the deep front line at the forehead. In addition to these 2 fascial trains, we have many others, but today we're going to talk about the wings of the body. The wings of the body make up the arms and chest, and these are really what help us to create this energetic pull in our asana classes. Sometimes I talk about creating energy through the fascial system as if we are pulling taffy. If you've ever pulled taffy or seen somebody make marshmallow taffy, you know that it starts out lumpy and bumpy, right? The more we knead it, the more we pull it, the smoother it gets. The lines actually start to come together and create fibers or fabric, and that's what makes the taffy chewy. Well, that's sort of how fascia works too. Fascia covers the entire body and runs in these lines, helping to distribute tension and helping the body to compensate for any tightness it might have in another area. When we're practicing asana, we're moving energy along these fascial lines. Some teachers call it the lines of energy, and that's the lens we're going to look at it through today. When you are teaching asana, you can teach your students how to access the lines of energy simply by bringing their awareness to various parts of the body while they're in an asana class. Let's take a look at what that would look like and how it feels in our body. Let's take a look at the lines of energy through the lens of alignment. Now, alignment is load optimization, but we've all been in yoga classes where the teachers were very dogmatic about their alignment, or they wanted it to look a certain way. In these situations, we most commonly hear cues like, bring your back foot parallel to the back of the mat. Or bring your pelvis parallel to the back of the mat. Or square your pelvis to the top of the mat. These are 3 cues that are misinformation, and I'm going to show you why using these lines of energy in the body. Let's come into a wide-legged stance. Bring your feet about 4 to 4.5 feet apart. So really drawing from Iyengar's method. Now, I've talked to all of our students and teachers about lineage before. The reason lineage is important is because we want to go back to some place specific. We want to make sure that we have an anchor, someplace that we can go back to refer to. Now, a lot of times we hear these cues, but they don't have any lineage. Where did they learn this? Did they learn it from a yoga studio that maybe is more corporate in nature, or did they learn it from someone who studied with Iyengar or Patabi or Desikachar? We look at everything through the lens of lineage so that we can always have a home base, someplace to refer to. But today, just for today, we're going to go ahead and try it this way. So I've brought my feet 4 to 4.5 feet apart, and my back foot is parallel to the back of the mat. I'm going to go ahead and turn my front foot forward to the front of the mat, and already you notice that my shoulders are in alignment with my hips, and my pelvis wants to go this way. So just as we are right here, go ahead and try to square your pelvis to the side of the mat. Now notice what happens. You should feel some congestion right here. It feels a little weird, doesn't it? If you follow the line of energy all the way down, it'll take you to the outer edge of your knee. You might feel some twerking in here and in here. So this quadrant is not feeling so great on most of us. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let my hips go where they want to go. And when I let my hips go where they want to go, they go about to the top corner of the mat. So they're not facing forward, they're not facing to the side, they're facing to the top corner. But a lot of times our teachers tell us to parallel the back foot to the back of the mat and turn our pelvis so that it is parallel to the long side of the mat. So I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to go ahead and bend my right knee. Now you'll notice already my right knee is moving in towards the midline, and I'll show this to you in a few different examples. But here I am, my right knee is moving towards the midline, and this is hurting my pelvis. It's not actually very comfortable or very stable. Now I'm going to bring my awareness right here to this back foot. Press into the back foot. Now I can feel energy come to about right here, mid-thigh. But I don't feel any energy up in here in the back leg. I don't feel any engagement in the glute. In fact, if I was to engage my glutes, I would actually be scooping my pelvis forward. When I scoop my pelvis forward or tuck my tailbone in a warrior two, that takes out the lumbar curve, and that's not what we want. We want the lumbar curve to be there. But okay, I'm just going to be here. I'm going to notice what I notice. Here in my warrior two, well, how does that feel? I can't feel any radiant heat coming past mid-thigh, and this knee feels a little bit fiery. My ankle feels strained. Let's take a look at it from another angle. Here again, my back foot is parallel to the back of the mat. My pelvis is now turning so that it's parallel to the long side of the mat. Bend my knee. And in order to keep my pelvis so that it is parallel to the long side of my mat, you'll see my knee is moving in towards the middle of the mat. So now let's take a look at it through the lens of Iyengar's Hatha Yoga. Now remember, we teach you Vinyasa from the lens of Krishnamacharya as the key figurehead that created this beautiful practice of Vinyasa Yoga. So we look at the 3 teachers that he taught during his life that became master teachers. One is Iyengar, one is Patabi, and one is Desikachar. Now Iyengar's alignment cues are very specific, and we can go back to Light on Yoga to determine how we're supposed to start working with this alignment. Now, as Krishnamacharya aged, he mellowed a little bit, and Vinaya Yoga is a little bit different. It's a little bit less dogmatic, and it really looks at the body as an instrument for load optimization. So let's take a look at Iyengar's cues first, and then we will adjust to make it feel right in our body based on the load optimization that we need. So coming to a wide-legged stance, 4 to 4.5 feet for both Warrior 1 and Warrior 2. Iyengar says turn the back toes in slightly, and then turn the front toes to the top of the mat. Now you'll notice here again, my pelvis is in this line, wants to stay right here. I'm going to let that happen, bend the knee. Now I'm going to open the arms and bring the shoulders over the pelvis so that they're in one line. This is Iyengar's Warrior 2. Bring your awareness to the back foot. Feel radiant energy moving from the back ankle up. It actually moves up through the front of the body, which is perfect because that's how we're getting extension in the back leg. Now, in the front of the body, I don't feel any torque in the knee. My knee is stacking over the ankle. I'm taking a look at this from the side, turning the back toes in towards the top of the mat, turning the right toes forward, and then bending into the right knee. From here, opening the arms, shifting the shoulders over the pelvis, and we can see there's no torque on the knee. Now, I might need to move my back foot over to make more space for my pelvis, and that's totally fine. Again, this is the ability we have when we take a look at Vini Yoga to adjust our stance to make room for our body. When we're teaching the lines of energy in our class, in our public asana class, we can use extended side angle to really teach what we're looking for. Extended side angle has the same base as Warrior 2. So coming in for a wide-legged stance, turning the back toes slightly in and turning the top toes forward to the top of the mat. Letting the pelvis go towards the top corner of the mat opposite your front leg is what we want to do here. Now bending into the knee. So we want to keep this length on this left side body, bringing the forearm into the left thigh. So not a dumping, but like a lifting, like an opening, yeah? Sometimes you hear teachers tell you to do this. So let's do it and feel what happens in your back leg. You might notice that you feel radiant energy until right about here someplace, and then it stops, maybe the armpit. What would it be like if you brought your right arm up and over towards the front of the room, letting the pinky come towards the ground? Can you feel the energy moving all the way through the side body up into the fingertips? Nice, me too. This is just one way we can teach the lines of energy in our classroom. As you become more familiar with the way that the fascial trains work in the body, and you understand more how these fascial lines correspond to energy moving through the tissue, you'll be able to bring your students' awareness to it more frequently so that they can understand how their body is really using itself as a conduit to move energy.